At the NUS School of Medicine, we do a whole range of research, but the most important thing is we want all these research to have a positive impact on our patient. So we have Professor Nick Paton, who has done a very important study to look at a shorter duration of treatment for patients with tuberculosis.
I'm a clinician scientist and infectious disease physician, and I'm interested in doing large-scale clinical trials done globally, directed at questions for resource-limited settings that aim to change clinical practice worldwide. So for the last 40 years, we've been treating people with tuberculosis with the same one-size-fits-all 6-month course of standard treatment. And we know that this is effectively over-treating the majority of people for the sake of preventing relapses. But we know historically that most people can be cured with a shorter course of treatment. So what we proposed in this research was to treat everybody with a much shorter course of treatment, but follow carefully after stopping treatment to pick up those people who are not cured, and then retreating those people with a longer course of treatment. And we hypothesized that this would be better overall for people with tuberculosis in programs. Over the last 10 years, we've done a large-scale trial in 18 clinical sites across Asia and in Africa, in Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, India, and Uganda. And this trial was to test a new strategic approach to TB treatment, in which we treat everybody with a much shorter course of treatment and then follow people carefully to find out who's been cured and who's not been cured. Those people who didn't get cured with the initial course of treatment, we retreat them with a standard 6-month course of treatment. So the trial was innovative in many ways, in this radical strategic course of treatment, the approach to treatment, the different combinations of drugs that we used, and a new kind of trial design that enabled us to test multiple combinations within the same trial. And the TB field is relatively cautious, and many of the senior people in the field thought initially the trial couldn't be done or shouldn't be done, but we got funding for it. We managed to successfully conduct it to a very high standard, such that the evidence is such high quality that nobody can question the veracity of the data.
So what are the key findings that you found in your research?
So the trial was a success. The key finding was that one of the strategy groups with an initial 2 months treatment was just as good as the standard 6 months of treatment, and obviously with a much shorter total time on treatment for participants. And this was obviously popular with participants. They said that they were very happy with this and would recommend it to a friend or a relative who had tuberculosis. And it also tells us that there's a new way of thinking about the treatment for TB, which could really change the field in terms of the way people approach clinical trials, and in the future in the way people approach clinical management. So it could really be a turning point in the course of TB treatment. Despite the relatively small population size of Singapore, it's possible by building collaborative research networks to do really impactful research that can change the way that people think about medicine and potentially the way people practice medicine in the future. And trials take a very long time and a big investment to do, but if you spend time about the questions, make sure you get the questions right, it'd really be very worthwhile and have a lasting impact on medicine.